Okay, we're going to talk or look at some examples of real-life students' grammar choices and look at some ways that they might be improved upon. Some of the examples that we'll be looking at would need to be improved upon, meaning that they are actually grammatically incorrect. But many of the choices are perfectly grammatically correct, and they may even be a good choice from time to time to use. But one of the things that we all do, or I'll say we all do, I certainly do, and many other people who are legal professionals do, is overuse the passive voice. So if you happen to see a sentence that you've written, don't assume that it's grammatically incorrect on this list, and don't assume that it wasn't perhaps even well placed. For the purpose of this course, I'm counting off when you use passive voice, even if it's used effectively, because I really want you to get in the habit of identifying passive voice and avoiding it. When you do choose as a legal professional to use passive voice, I want it to be a very conscious decision. You know you're using it and you have a very good reason to use it. Under those circumstances, it's perfectly fine to use. It can actually be your best choice, but it ought to be used conservatively and it ought to be used very consciously. So let's look at some passive voice. Before we get started on this, let's talk about how we know if something is in the passive voice. I'm going to start right here. Oops. Here. Working on this. Okay, so what is passive voice? Well, we have some version of the verb to be, and we have a past participle. In English, we usually do the past participle with the ending en or ed, but there are some that are irregular. So they don't all end with one of these for a past participle. Those are common endings. Let's go through some examples of past participles. I bite. The verb bite, if we want to make the past participle for it, it is I am bitten. You can see it ends en, so it falls into this category. I kill. I am killed. Again, we have a past participle. It ends ed. And this is an example of this usage right here. I hit. I am hit. This has neither the en ending of bitten or the ed ending of killed. Hit is an irregular verb, and so therefore it is still a past participle even though it doesn't look like our traditional past participle. If you see en, it's really pretty easy to know it's past participle. If you see ed, though, you can't be sure. Maybe this is just past tense. After all, if I wrote the sentence, I killed, killed is not a past participle. It's just the past tense of the verb to kill. So the past participle and the past tense verb can look the same. The way that you know is if you're looking at a past participle in a passive voice structure, you will have some version of the verb to be in front of it. Now the verb to be in English is very irregular. We say I am, you are, he, she, it is, and we'll say we are, oops, excuse me, and we'll say in English, we're treating this you as if it's the singular you, but if we have a group of people that we're speaking to, we would still say you are, and then we have they are. These are the present tense conjugated version of the verb to be. You'll notice none of these conjugated versions of the verb to be actually have any part of the word be in it. We have am, we have are, and we have is. Those are the structures. They don't even look like each other, and they certainly don't look like to be. Let's look at past tense. I was, you were, he, she, it was. Then we have we were. Again, we have that you were. Excuse me. And then we have they were. It's pretty common to find that these are the plural versions of our conjugated verb may all be the same, and they may match the singular you version, whereas the first person singular, the I version, is often different, and the third person singular is often different. So you can see we have was and were as our past tense conjugated verb to be. Again, was and were look a little bit alike. They start with a W at least, but they don't look anything like be. Now let's do the future tense. I will be. You will be. He will be. We will be. Again, you will be. And they will be. This is lovely because they're all the same. There's no difference in any of the the number or the person when we conjugate the verb in the future tense, be. And you actually do see the word be in this version. So here we have all the parts of to be. We have be, we have am, we have are, we have is, we have was, we have were. There's actually two more. First is the present participle, which is being, and then we have the past participle, which is been. And you can see it actually ends with en, just like we had in the standard. If you can remember these words, or if you can't remember them, just go through the exercise that we just did with present, past, and future tense, and remembering to add your participles, you will have a list of the ways that be can be represented. So when you see one of these words with a past participle, you very likely, almost certainly, have past tense. That is one way to recognize the past tense. There are other ways, though. Let's just write a past tense sentence. Let's write it in active voice first. The dog bit the boy. First thing that what I like to identify is the verb. You have it here. I put it in red. Then we go to the left of the verb. And the first noun we come to is typically going to be our first noun in the sentence. It's possible there's more than one noun here, but we're going to assume this is the first noun in our sentence. I'm going to make this, we'll make this green. Okay? Then we're going to go to the right of our verb. And the first noun we encounter on this side, we're going to make this one, we'll call it orange. Well, maybe that's too close. We'll make it purple. Okay. So we have three colors. The first thing we notice with bit is that it's only one word. So we automatically know it's just not possible that it's passive voice, or extremely unlikely that it's passive voice. Because we've already talked about how we need two words to make passive voice. Some way of saying to be, and here are our choices, and a past participle, which we've decided is a separate word, typically ending in en or ed. But this is just one word. Now, it's possible that bit is irregular, and that this is just the form of it, but we still don't have a version of the word to be. So we can know this is active voice for that reason. But there's some other ways we can know this is active voice. One way we can know is that when we look to the left, this way, and of course the left word that become crossed is dog, we look at dog and we read the sentence, the dog bit the boy. Well, who's doing the verb? Who's doing the action? And many times this word is called the actor. What's the dog? The dog is using his teeth. He's chomping down. He is the actor. When the actor of the sentence comes before the verb, it's an active voice sentence. So we've now identified two ways we can tell passive voice. We can look for the to be plus past participle. We can look to the first noun in the sentence, the one that comes to the left of the verb, and decide whether it's the actor in the sentence. If it is, we have active voice. There's a third way, and that is to look to the right of the verb, after the verb. And we have the word boy. Then we decide, is this the receiver of the action? In this case, is he receiving the bite? And we'd say, yes, that is what the boy is doing in this sentence. So if the word after, or the noun or the pronoun after the verb is receiving the action, is the direct object of the action, then again we have active voice. Let's look how this would be written if we wanted to make it passive voice. The boy was bitten by the dog. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is identify the verb again. We have a verbal phrase in this time. We have both the word was and bitten. Well, let's look at this and see if it fits our rule. We have to be. Well, do we have it? Looks like was might be a to be expression. Let's come down here and find it. And sure enough, here it is. Was is part of our to be. I'll make that red so we can keep that in mind. Yes, we have that. So we have the first part. Now we're looking for bitten. Is bitten a past participle? Well, we know that words that end en are often past participles. So yes, it looks like we have the verb structure, the verbal phrase that is consistent with passive voice. But now we're going to look to the noun or pronoun to the left of the verb, this one right here, which we're going to do in green. And we're going to decide whether this noun here, because it's not a pronoun, it's a noun, is the one acting or the one receiving the action. The boy was bitten by the dog. Is the boy using his teeth, or is he receiving the bite from some other entity? Well, we'd say it's receiving the entity. The boy is receiving the action because he's the receiver of the action, and because he is to the left or before the verb, we know that that's an indication it's passive voice. The third indication of passive voice is going to be the by phrase. This is a prepositional phrase. I'm going to put it in purple. And when we have this phrase, the word by in English has a lot of different meanings. A common meaning for it to have is in close proximity to, or it can mean it can be a use of a passive voice. It can be a place to put the actor when you have passive voice. Okay, so we look at the noun that is the object of this preposition, the word by, and we say, well, is this noun the actor in this sentence? Is he the one who is using his teeth? Is he the one who is doing the verb? Well, yes, he is the one doing the verb. The dog is biting the boy. It's his teeth that are being used in this action of biting. So because this is the actor and it's in a by prepositional phrase, we know that's another indication of passive voice. So this phrase has all classic signs of passive voice. This one has none of these signs of passive voice. So we know that this is going to be passive voice. Well, let me show you another example of passive voice. The boy was bitten. So we still have this passive voice structure. And we still have the boy who is receiving the action. So we have two of the classic signs. But we don't have the word dog in here at all, and we don't have a by phrase. So we have two of the classic signs of passive voice. That is enough. You don't need all three. In fact, if you just have one of the classic signs of passive voice, you're done. You have demonstrated that it's going to be a passive voice sentence. Some people find the verb part easier. Some people find the subject part easier, the green part easier. Some people find the purple part easier. You can use 1, 2, or 3 strategies, but just be sure that you're using one of these strategies to identify passive voice. Now, let's say, though, that you've decided, well, I really like the purple strategy. I like to look at the word that comes after the verb, or that comes to the right of the verb. But in this one, I can't use that strategy, so what do I do? Well, that's okay, because what you can do when there is no by expression in the sentence, you can make one up. So I'm going to say, let's make this black to start with. By the monkey. Now, in this phrase, we see the word by. We recognize by has more than one meaning in English, but we're going to just see, could it work as a by prepositional phrase where the actor is the object of the preposition or the noun of the prepositional phrase. The boy was bitten by the monkey. When you read this, are you getting a mental image of a monkey's teeth, clamping down on the boy's arm or ankle or wherever? If you are, and you should be, because that's obviously the story that this sentence is telling you, then yes, in fact, it is a passive voice sentence. Now, of course, in reality, it may not be the monkey who bit the boy at all. It might have been a scorpion. It might have been a mosquito. It might have been another child. So when you're adding the by the monkey phrase, you aren't necessarily saying this is actually what happened in the story. What you're doing is you're saying, if I make a fanciful statement in here, will it make grammatical sense? And will it mean to me as a reader of English language that the monkey is the actor in the sentence? Let me try another prepositional phrase. By the river. I'm going to make this in, I'm not going to put it in purple, I'm going to put it in black, because right now I don't know, this is what I said, it did not work. Here we go. I do not know right now whether this is, what kind of prepositional phrase it is. I know the word by has more than one meaning in English. When I read the sentence, the boy was bitten by the river, I do not think boy, that river opened its mouth and with its teeth sunk its jaws into the boy. I think to myself that somebody bit the boy. Maybe it's a dog, maybe it's a monkey, maybe it's a mosquito, and the boy was in close proximity to the river at the time. So you can see in this case, by has the other meaning. It doesn't mean the same thing as it means here, by the dog. This means in close proximity to the object of the preposition, in this case, river. So those are the three ways of looking at it. Be aware of the ins and outs of those approaches. I like to keep in mind all three of the ways you make passive voice. That way you won't be taken aback or confused if one of those doesn't seem to be working out. For example, if you have an irregular verb and you're not sure if it's a past participle or not, you might be thrown by that. If you don't have the by phrase in a particular sense, you might be thrown by that. Probably the easiest way to do it is with the green word. But I think it's good to have all the tools in your arsenal. Let me just add this phrase up here, by the river. This also works. This is a grammatically correct sentence. Maybe a little odd, but the boy was bitten by the dog by the river, meaning the boy was near the river. He was bitten. The dog is the one who used his teeth to bite the boy. That's the story behind this sentence, as we understand this in the English language. So the first task we have to do is figure out, are we looking at passive voice? Now, I just explained to you how to do it, and you absolutely need to know this to be an effective writer, not just English, legal writer, but any kind of writer. You need to be able to very quickly identify passive voice. So please, please don't leave this program, don't even leave this class without having mastered this. If this description is leaving your head spinning, come to my office hours, and we can spend a lot of time on this. Typically, in my experience, people can be a little intimidated by this, but you spend 30 minutes talking about it, going through lots and lots of examples, and eventually a light bulb will go off in the head. And it clicks, and it'll probably stay lit for quite a while. It's a little bit like riding a bicycle. So once you learn it, think about it from time to time. Make sure that you're keeping that fact fresh in your mind so that you won't forget it later on. But it is an important thing for a writer who's writing in English to know. Let's look at how Microsoft Word is going to help us identify passive voice. Now you can see here I have a list of passive voice sentences, and these are things I pulled from writings of students. And you can see in every case there's a squiggly green line under the passive voice. I've highlighted or put in bold the passive voice. I did not put that green squiggly line. Microsoft Word did it for me. Let me show you how you go about doing that so that that will show up in your Microsoft Word so that it will automatically tell you, hey, author of this sentence, you have put it in passive voice. Now, I won't tell you you got to change it. It just basically tells you this is good information for you to have. You might want to consider changing it. Because, again, passive voice is not grammatically incorrect. So what do? Well, let's first of all hit the File button. If we have Word 2010, we hit File. We go down here to Options. And I think it's going to be, yes, I think we hit Proofing, and then we go down to this section, When Correcting Spelling and Grammar in Word. And it will say Mark Grammar Errors as you type, and we want both grammar and style. We're going to hit Settings, and you're going to see one of the choices here is going to be passive sentences. If I didn't care about passive sentences, I could make that go away, but I don't want to. I do care about passive sentences. So you can pick and choose which rules you want to follow. For the most part, my suggestion would be to click on all of these with the possible exception of use of first person. The rest of these I think is important. The split infinitive rules is another one that you could possibly decide not to check. So once you click this, it's going to show you in green. Let me just show you what it looks like if you don't click it. So I'm going to go back to Proofing. I'm going to go back to Style and Grammar Settings. I am now going to take away passive voice. I'm going to have to save this. I'm going to click it, and guess what? All those green underlinings go away. So it's going to require that I find them. They're in bold because Professor Groover chose to put these in bold. Word did not put them in bold. So I'm going to go back and put it on so that I don't have to do the hard work of finding them. Now, Word is very reliable about finding passive voice. Every now and again it will think something is passive that isn't, but I can't think of any times where it's not found passive or it's skipped a passive that really was in fact there. Did I hit it right? Here, let me go back. Proofing, spelling grammar settings, passive, okay, okay. I might have to run another check on it. Here we go. Let's do review, spelling and grammar. Yes. Next sentence, next sentence, next sentence. Okay. Actually, it doesn't have the green back again. I'm not sure why it didn't do that. Anyway, so don't turn off. I guess the takeaway is don't turn it off. So you will always have it looking at you with the green writing. Okay, so let's get started with passive voice. Now, again, I have put the offensive, no, it's not offensive again, but the offending part, the part we want to change, in bold. That's not going to be automatic, but I was doing it so you could see it clearly. The completed claim of lien for Miriam Rivera was mailed to the Collin County Clerk's office today. So we have was mailed. This is the equivalent of the red that we have here. So I'm going to put it in red so I'm consistent. Now I'm looking for that green word. And actually it is this one. Now in my really simple sentences, there were so few sentences in the word, it sometimes obviously it was very easy to know that dog was the noun that we're going to be focusing on. It wouldn't be Miriam Rivera because look at this. This is in a prepositional phrase. Miriam Rivera is the object of the preposition for. This is just a dependent clause that starts a sentence. You would never find the subject in the dependent clause here. And of course, completed modifies claim of lien. So we have claim of lien is the equivalent of dog here. Now, if your grammar skills are a little bit rusty, I suggest that you get a grammar book that will help you figure out what parts of speech you're working with, because this can be a little tricky. When it's a sentence like this, everybody gets it pretty quickly. When it's a more involved sentence, it can be a bit of a challenge. If you want some suggestions on some grammar books to use, you're welcome to come by my office. I do have some grammar books that you're welcome to come to my office and just borrow them for an hour or two to look them over and to kind of decide which one might be best for you. So we've decided this is the green phrase, and now we're looking for was mailed to the Collin County Clerk's office today. Well, we don't have any by phrase here, so this is all we have. So we don't have anything in purple to include. Let's just read this, though, and let's guess who actually did this action of mailing, because we know the proof of claim didn't mail anything. It was the object that received the action. It received the mailing. And we know that was mailed is passive voice because was is one of our to be words here. And we know that mailed is a past participle. It follows the ED rule. So we know that our rule 1, looking at the verb, this is passive voice. And we know rule 2, where we're looking at the subject of we're looking at the first noun of the sentence, it is the one who's receiving the action. So we know 2 rules have gotten this into passive voice. So Microsoft Word correctly identified this. So now we're trying to figure out, if I add the phrase by someone, who should that be? Who did I mean, or who did I leave out? Per your request, the completed claim of lien for Miriam Rivera was mailed to the county clerk's office today by, and what everyone who uses, and we're going to see this again and again, is me, by me. I'm the one who mailed it. So the way to make this change is per your request, I mailed, cut, oops. Okay, now this has become the purple because this is on the right side of our verb, and we know it's just now it's a one-word verb, so it has to be active voice. And this is our pronoun. We don't have a verb this time. I mean a noun this time. We have a pronoun. This is the green. So is I, in this sense, am I doing the action of the verb? Well, yes, I am. I'm the one mailing it. Per your request, I mailed the completed claim of lien for Miriam Rivera to the Collin County Clerk's office today. And obviously, we'd get rid of the by me. That is a well-written sentence. You'll see we have lots of examples. This isn't exactly the same sentence, but it's close to it. Which one reads better? Which one is easier to understand? Which one is more simple, a quicker read? The claim of lien from Miriam Rivera has been sent to the county clerk for Collin County to be recorded. Or, per your request, I mailed the completed claim of lien from Miriam Rivera to the county clerk's office today. This is actually a little bit longer sentence. You can see it goes a little bit longer, but it's actually much easier to understand. Our brains think in active voice. Whenever we use passive voice, it makes our brains, the reader's brain, have to work harder. And our goal as effective legal writers is to cause the reader to make as little effort as possible. Our job is to persuade him or her to buy into our argument, to accept what we're saying, and the easier we make it for the reader to do that, the more likely we are to accomplish our goal. So it sounds like we're being nice and generous to the reader by making his work easy, but we're actually having a selfish goal, because when we make the reader's job easier, we get what we want to accomplish, because we're getting the reader to buy into our story. So this is a better phrased sentence than the one that we had initially. Okay, let's look at the next one. The claim of lien from Mary Rivera has been sent. Okay? Now, you can see right away it has 3 words in it. That doesn't mean it can't be active, a 3-word verbal phrase. It doesn't mean it can't be active voice, but it can be passive. That's a possibility. So let's look at the ways that we know this is passive. Well, it has been in here. I'm going to make this all red since we're using our verbs in red. And been is one of our words that we've already identified over here. And we have sent. Now that's an irregular. It doesn't end en or ed, but to send is an irregular verb, and so it fits into this category. You could always check your dictionary to confirm. And most dictionaries will tell you how you make the past participle or the present participle if it's made in irregular form. And so that can be a good thing to check. A good dictionary can really be advantageous for you in lots of different ways, and that's one of the big ways that it can be. Now we're going to look at the claim of lien, so we're going to make that our green sentence, and we're looking, is the claim of lien sending anything? Well, no, it's being sent, it's receiving the action. So if we weren't quite sure about this irregular verb sent, we weren't quite sure if it's a past participle, this is going to clinch the deal for us, because we know the claim of lien is not mailing anything, it's being mailed. We don't have a by phrase here, so we add by, and of course in this case what we mean is by me. I'm the one sending it. Now I would say that the sent verb is not as strong as mailed, because how did I send it? Did I send it by carrier pigeon? Did I give it to somebody to hand deliver? Did I send it by UPS overnight mail? It's unclear how I sent it. The term mailed in English is more precise. It's not that sent is incorrect. It's perfectly grammatically correct, but it's not as strong. It's not as effective. It's not as precise a way. If you can say something more precisely, that is the way to go most of the time. Now, of course, you can go into tremendous detail by saying, I got up from my desk, I walked over to the mailbox, I opened the mailbox door, I put the letter in, I closed the mailbox door, and I walked back to my desk. Obviously, you don't need to provide that level of detail. That's not helping anything. That's not giving the reader any more information about the fact that it was mailed. You've said everything that you need to about that when you say the word mailed. So I'm not talking about adding unnecessary details, but when you're choosing between the word mail and send, the mail is going to be the better choice in this particular case. But this isn't incorrect. I wouldn't count off for this, but just think about the word choice. Challenge yourself. Is this the best word that I can send in this context? Does this give as much information as another word might? So let's change this to active voice. We know that we're going to have to move this to on the right side of the verb. We're going to need to change this to I, because I'm the one doing it, so I'm going to make I green. And obviously I don't need the word the. I sent the claim of lien. I'm going to make this purple so we can see how the parts all fit together, to the county clerk for Collin County to be recorded. This works. This is a good way of doing it. It might be nice to say, today I sent. It might be helpful, it might not be helpful, but those are some ideas. And we have lots of examples along this same line, but you can kind of see the rhythm of this. Let's go down here to this example for a second. A letter was submitted. This is the expression. Okay, again, we're going to make this red. We know that was is one of the to be verbs, and we have submitted ending in ed, so it possibly is a past participle. So it has the structure of the verb for past participle. Now let's look at our noun that is before our verb. We have that as green. Is the letter submitting? Well, no, and the letter is an inanimate object. It can't submit anything. It can only be submitted. So we have the receiver of the action occurring before or to the left of the verb. So now we have two aspects of the passive voice. Now we see the third aspect, by this firm. The firm, in this sense, is the one who's submitting the letter. So we can switch this around and we can say, the firm submitted the, let's see, what is it? The claim, claim of lien. The firm submitted a claim of lien as of this date to the county clerk in Collin County. I'm going to remove by this firm. We don't need to say it twice. Now this one has a few other problems. Actually, I need to get rid of the initial words A. One thing that you'll discover when you do make these kind of editorial changes to your sentences, that sometimes words can be left in that if you're not a careful proofreader, you may miss that they need to be changed. So we now have the firm submitted the letter. But really, is that helpful information for the recipient? For me, in this case, the responsible attorney, the firm submitted the letter. Don't I really want to know who in the firm submitted the letter? Who's got the copy of it? Who signed it? Where can I go to get it if I need to? So really a much better way of saying this is I submitted the proof of claim. Because that's what you're really talking about. There's nothing in the world wrong with using a personal pronoun in a memo of this type. Even in a legal research memorandum, it's usually going to be okay. But certainly in this type of format, you are avoiding providing useful information. Now, it's possible if you're filing something with a court, you might want to say our law firm submitted, like without going into it was, Sally, junior attorney, who actually signed the document. That may not be useful information. But when you're communicating within the law firm, to say the firm submitted it is really leaving out some information that can be helpful. Then we also have this phrase, as of this date. Well, goodness gracious, who talks that way? I don't. I say today. I submitted the claim of proof today to the county clerk in Collin County to record Ms. Rivera's claim of lien. Okay. Now, actually, that's not the best place for today. Today I submitted, I'd probably say it that way. Today I submitted the proof of claim to the county clerk in Collin County, and I'd probably switch this around to say the Collin County, because why say county twice? It's not wrong to, but it's a little bit quirky. I submitted the claim of lien to the Collin County clerk to record it. Why do we need to say it twice? It's pretty obvious in this context what it is referring to. It's referring to the claim of lien. So now we have a better sentence. It's shorter. We've removed the clunky as of today's date or as of this day. And we have removed saying county twice, and we've removed saying claim of lien twice. Now there are times where you need to repeat words so that's clear. But using a pronoun can be a good way to shorten a sentence to make it crisper sounding to our ears. Let's look at the one above. I'm not going to worry about the passive voice. We now know how to fix this. We could just say, I mailed the letter along with a check for $10 in a self-addressed stamped envelope within the instructions to return the lien once it is recorded. We have passive voice here too. There's a lot of stuff going on in this sentence. It's not grammatically incorrect. It's not grammatically incorrect, even when it's in passive voice, but gosh, there's a lot of stuff going on. And if you read it quickly, you're going to be a little bit overwhelmed. So it might be better to break this up into a couple of sentences. So I might say, I mailed the letter with Ms. Rivera's claim of lien. Maybe I'll say I mailed the letter to the Collins County clerk with Ms. Rivera's claim of lien. In the letter, I enclosed a self-addressed, stamped envelope with instructions to return the lien once it is recorded. Now, again, we have the passive voice here. In my opinion, that's not terrible in this case to say, but we could change if we really wanted to avoid the passive tense, which we do in this particular class. We want to err on the side of avoiding it once the clerk has recorded it. So here we have, it actually is longer than our initial sentence, but it reads and it's easier to understand. Let's read the first version. The letter has been mailed along with a check for $10 in a self-addressed stamped envelope with instructions to return the lien once it is recorded. Or, I mailed the letter to the Collins County clerk with Ms. Rivera's claim of lien. In the letter, I enclosed a self-addressed stamped envelope with instructions to return the lien once the clerk has recorded it. It's longer, but it's easier to follow. Okay, let's look at the next one. I will let you know once I get the lien back from the county clerk, so it can be reviewed before I send it to Ms. Rivera. What I would do, many times you'll see when we're doing writing, is when you find a comma, what I like to do in a sentence, this sentence isn't shockingly long, but I would like to put a period there. I will let you know once I get the lien back from the county clerk. I am going to end the session now, and we will return in a little bit. Thank you for your attention.